The 5 biggest winners of Phase 4 changes. Season Discovery WoW Classic. Let's check this out.
Phase 4 of Season of Discovery about to drop, we're gonna see the biggest set of class changes so far.
Yeah.
From the new runes, abilities being made baseline, runes being swapped about, and tons of class balancing. Whatever you played in Phase 3, it's going to look quite different
Very
now.
different.
In fact, outside of an actual expansion experience, classes have never changed as much as they're about to in Classic so far. So,
Dude, playing my warrior, my arms warrior, is so different already from like Phase 3.
whatever your main is, there'll be something exciting to check out.
Yeah.
You should also know all the runes that have been moved to skill books or skill books which were available from previous phases, such as the ones from dungeons that increased buff durations or redirect or anything like that, will now be available on vendors for a couple of gold each. These are from Milton Sheaf in Stormwind Library, just inside Stormwind Keep, or from Zor Lone Tree, who is where the Shaman trainers are at in Orgrimmar, just next to Thrall. It's worth a note too that all the class changes are live in Season of Discovery right now. It's like Phase 4 has had a mini pre-patch, so you can get used to your new class a little bit, but today I want to cover a few of the classes and specs which I think are the most improved. Now
Dude,
this
I'm actually kind of, I would want to play a Paladin, man. They seem kind of dank.
isn't specifically I think they're going to be doing the best damage or they'll be the best in PvP, but just that they've received the most updates from the phase and they'll be the most changed and ultimately should be the most interesting to check out. So with all that said, let's make a start. We'll begin
Ask Savix. I mean, I don't know how it feels. I've been playing Warrior. I've been loving Warrior, actually. Warrior's been super fun so far. And the next one I level is going to be Mashami, right?
with rogues, and the first thing you should know is that Mutilate has been nerfed.
Yeah.
I think it was a long time coming since this ability has been the center of every single rogue spec since Phase 2. But now in Phase 4, Mutilate will do less damage, as will Envenom.
Apparently people are just spamming backstab for damage.
Alongside this, Blizzard have tried to buff other rogue identities to make them a bit more competitive. And the one I'm the most interested to see—
Wait, can you backstab from the front? Did I just see that right?
is definitely Dagger Rogues. So Slaughter from the Shadows has been updated. It now reduces the energy cost of backstab and ambush by 30, up from 20.
Really? You can ambush when not in stealth and you can backstab from the front. You know, that's actually really funny, because I used to play on a server called Chronos, and the Chronos coding was a little bit wonky, and there used to be a meta for rogue leveling called front stabbing, where you could go basically dagger rogue, and you could spec into improve backstab and whatnot and use a dagger, and you could backstab the mob while tanking it by strafing through the mob, right? So the mob would be here, like this would be the mob, right? And you would be the rogue, and you would like run back and forth inside the mob like this, from side to side, and you could actually backstab because you were like, as the mob was like turning around to face you, you would be behind the mob, and you were able to backstab. That is kind of funny. What the heck?
And increases their damage against non-player targets by 60%.
Wow.
Alongside this, Shiv is gone and has been replaced with a new rune called Cutthroat. This makes it so you no longer need to be behind your target to backstab, ambush, or garrote, and you have a 15% chance to make your next ambush not require stealth when backstabbing. It kind of goes without saying, but these two rune changes are absolutely enormous for Dagger Rogues.
Yeah, this is nuts. What the fuck? Even just rogue PvP, you can backstab from the front? What?
And I think whether you're leveling or indeed raiding, this build should see quite a bit of viability. I put together some kind of example build here, and when leveling I'll probably start off in combat and go down to Blade Flurry. I think Dagger Rogues are going to be basically unbeatable on 2 targets with this cooldown up, as they're just able to put out so much damage, on top of their other cooldowns and of course having Thistle Tea as well. I even went and tried this out on a rogue I haven't played for a while, and you can kind of see the results. It's pretty insane. I guess if pre-classics release, you ever heard of the phrase front stabbing? Well, this gives it a whole new meaning. So if you've been a Dagger Rogue enjoyer, then it's going to be super viable at basically everything now. Tank Rogue.
Dagger Rogue is cool, man. It's like, for sure, Dagger Rogue is way cooler than Sword Rogue.
Rogues have seen some updates too. Unfair Advantage will now trigger on parries and always hits your current target, and will grant 1 combo point when it triggers. Mangosha's also been updated as well, and will grant 100% parry chance until you parry an attack, and after you use this ability it will reduce the energy cost of Sinister Strike by 20 for the next 10 seconds. If you also have Sinister Strike talented, this means this ability will only cost 20 energy. So if you're a rogue tank that wants to focus on swords or just basically not daggers, then that's going to be a lot more viable in this patch. The next most interesting class I would say is Hunter, with both ranged and melee seeing a lot of updates. There have been some general changes too. All Hunter traps are usable in combat, you don't have to take Trap Launcher anymore.
Dude, Trap Launcher is so annoying, man. Oh, dude, I've done some PGs on my warrior, and Hunters are just raining down traps. It is the most infuriating thing in the world, man.
The Lion is now a skill buck, and True Shot Aura no longer grants melee attack power and only grants ranged attack power, so you no longer have that feeling you need to go True Shot for your melee group.
Hey, what the fuck? Hey! Where's my melee attack power? Wait. Yo, what the hell?
On top of that, the melee attack power that was previously granted by True Shot Aura is now on Heart of the Lion instead.
Oh, there it is. Oh, nice. Oh, I'm happy again.
So you're still getting this bonus.
Oh, there it is.
Lone Wolf has been buffed up considerably, and the damage bonus for not having a pet has been increased to 35%. This is going to be huge for ranged Hunter. For Melee Hunter, Cobra Slayer has been redesigned. Mongoose Bite will now have a chance to proc off your melee attacks, or when enemies dodge, and the longer it takes to proc, the higher chance it will have to do so, and it will scale with some of your attack power. So finally, this ability is worth putting on your bar. And Flanking Strike will now increase all damage done by 5%, instead of just your Mongoose Bite and Raptor Strike, and it has a 33% chance to reset from your pet's basic attacks.
Dude, they actually changed a whole lot. What the hell?
Instead of Raptor Strike. So I hope you went and farmed your Broken Tooth, because that is going to be the best pet for this. Alternatively, when ZG comes out, there are some bats with the same attack speed, I believe, but we won't have that straight away. On top of that, certain talents in the marksmanship tree have been made so they will benefit melee as well, such as efficiency, reducing the mana costs, lethal shots increasing critical strike chance, and mortal shots which increase critical strike damage bonus. On top of that, if you're not into dual wielding as much, Blizzard have even tried to make two-handed Hunter into more of a thing, with
Did Hunters get two-handed spec viability before Shamans? Are you kidding me? Are you actually kidding me? They're giving it to Hunters before Shamans.
a new rune called Wyvern Strike, which requires you to have gone all the way down to the bottom of the survival tree. So for Hunter, whether you want to play ranged without a pet, ranged with a pet, melee with a pet, melee dual wield, or melee two-hander, Blizzard have tried to make every single one of these things work. Now, I imagine one of them will be better than the other, that tends to be how these things go, but it should be a lot of fun to experiment.
Experimenting is the fun part of Sword, I think. That's why I've been trying out the Gladstance stuff as well on the Warrior.
Next up we have the Warlock. I think they have seen quite a few interesting changes in Phase 4. We have a new spellbook which makes Spirit into a good stat amazingly. It's called Fell Armor, and it increases your spell damage and healing by a flat amount, plus additional spell damage and healing equal to 50% of your Spirit, and you regain some of your health every 5 seconds.
Okay, how did the Gladstance DPS go? On bosses, we had burst up towards 1.3k DPS. So it actually could work, potentially. I'm not gonna lie, dude, Gladstance Warrior has potential.
This is pretty similar to the version of Fell Armor that existed in Wrath of the Lich King, and will make Warlocks reconsider Spirit when they're gearing, because 50% of Spirit into spell damage is a pretty huge amount. Other than that, the Backdraft rune will no longer consume Immolate on the target, and the 30% haste buff has been buffed from a 10-second duration to 15, so this will really smooth out how Destruction plays. Your Fell Guards had a lot of buffs, so if you take this rune it will feel worth using, In previous phases, Imp was still better than Felguard somehow. So now the Felguard has the Demonic Frenzy ability, causing their melee attacks to grant 5% additional attack power for 10 seconds, stacking 10 times.
Dude, they're gonna hit hard. I'm hopping the cam over a little bit all over the place, guys, so you guys can actually read the stuff on the screen.
Pretty similar to the version they had in TDC, actually. And the damage and stamina of Felguard have been increased by approximately 20%. Ooh. So overall, if you pick Felguard, it should feel like a valuable demon to use. Lake of Fire has of course been redesigned and now causes Rain of Fire to be instant cast with no channeling time, but is
This is what was apparently also happening on Aero servers, funnily. Oh, hardcore servers, sorry, funnily enough.
On an 8-second cooldown. So this will make it so you can throw down your Rain of Fire and then run in and start channeling Hellfire.
That's insane.
The Demonic Pact effect, which previously was only applied to your party, has been extended to be raid-wide instead, so you'll only need one Warlock with this. And I believe if you're playing a Destruction build, which I think you will be if you're raiding, then you're going to be taking this rune anyway. Okay. And the damage penalty of Shadow Bolt Volley has been reduced from 20% down to only 5%.
Oh, yeah, I saw Warlocks were actually popping off with AoE now.
Wanted this rune to work so much so far in Season of Discovery, and I found that given tank threat, its place has been kind of niche. But we're going to hear more about tanks in a little bit, so I hope this will see more play. The next class I have is the Paladin, and I think this is the most changed class by far. So the Exorcist rune is now a baseline ability from a skill book, but it will only reduce the cooldown of Exorcism by 2 seconds when it procs instead of resetting it. Seal of Martyrdom is now also baseline and will be learned through a skill book. On top of that, you'll also be able to discover Avenging Wrath. This will increase damage and healing by 20% and gives you your iconic wings. Divine Steed will...
This thing was apparently also on Aero servers. You want them to remove world buffs. World buffs can be really annoying. Yeah, they can be really annoying. I agree.
Be another discovery made in Phase 4, increasing the by 100% for 3 seconds on a 45-second cooldown.
It's good,
but
perfect.
The Paladin
Okay, sorry.
spec I think is the most improved.
Didn't realize that, sorry.
Be Holy. So Infusion of Light has seen several adjustments. It will now increase the damage and healing of Holy Shock by 50%, up from 20, and it will reduce its base cooldown to just 6 seconds. Beacon of Light will now last an hour, so you can throw it on a tank and they're good for the entire dungeon. And
easy club. Is Druid any good? I don't know. I think Druids are a lot better though.
Have a new rune called Divine Light. This is a powerful and expensive heal, which will pretty much top anyone off that you use it on. And Holy's also received a rather curious new rune to keep the Shockadin theme going. I think this is going to end up being more of a PvP spec.
That's kind of cool though.
Do damage in PvE, but it should be fun to try out and experiment with. This Shockanor rune makes it so when you use Holy Shock, the Paladin gains 1 additional spell power per point of intellect for 30 seconds on use. That is going to be a massive extra amount of spell power, and I can see certain builds basically being built around this rune. And the last class I want to mention is, well, not really a class, it's a role within the game, and that is for tanks. So all tanks now have an ability which hits up to 10 targets. Blizzard have done a bit of a 180 on the philosophy that tanks shouldn't be able to hold threat on everything, and that it's DPS players' job to watch their damage.
That's crazy though. That's a massive change to how tanks feel in vanilla.
I think this has happened because
it's not vanilla,
giving
really,
DPS tons of AoE and then tanks no AoE. And when you're a DPS player, you kind of just want to press your button.
Thunderclap type? Bro, I've been clapping hard on my warrior. We've been doing like a glad stance, like a thunderclap build, and it kind of claps, dude.
And it doesn't feel great when you're a tank and there's nothing you can do about somebody being reckless. So whether you think it's good or bad, this is changed now, and as a tank you're going to have a much easier time holding AoE threats. So for example, Thunderclap will hit 10 targets,
there it is.
And it has some attack power scaling, 5% I believe, better than nothing.
5% scaling is kind of bad though.
Blast will hit 10 targets, Shadow Cleave, the improved Swipe rune, and so on. On top of that, tanks will either gain spell power or attack power from defense above the cap when using a certain ability. For example, a warrior would use Shield Slam and would get 4 points of attack power per point of defense above 300.
It's a little bit like, is it called Vengeance or whatever in Kata?
So all in all, each tank gets bonus damage from going over the baseline defense cap of 300, which you wanted to do anyway phase to help with crushing blows and being crit and so on. So now when you see defense on an item as a tank, you don't think, oh yeah, well, I kind of have to get this.
Yeah,
no,
you like
it's
it.
good for your defense and your offense. And of course, in vanilla, offense equals threat. So I think this is a great change which should help out tanks a bunch.
Cool.
But those are just a few of the class changes I have going into phase 4 of
Nice
Season
video.
of Discovery.
There was actually a lot I
As
didn't
I've
know.
mentioned a few times now, there really are so many class changes, and they are all live right now, so you can hop into the game
It's fun.
and check them out in advance of the phase dropping. Let me know.
So far, Warrior has been a ton of fun to play. I don't know about what class you guys play, obviously, but I've actually quite been enjoying it so far.
What you think of these changes and what you're looking forwards to playing in the comments down below. And, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Good video. Good video by Willie, man. I like this a lot. I don't know. I've been enjoying phase 4 a lot. I'm going to keep cranking it and we're going to keep playing it. But there is a ton of the changes that has been made. Just wanted to take a look at this real fast. You know what I mean?